U.S. history books like to stop the Underground Railroad at the Canadian border, but if you trace the routes further, you find paths running south, across the Rio Grande and onto Mexican soil. Under Spanish rule, Mexico was part of the transatlantic slave trade, but independence shifted the ground. Vicente Guerrero, Mexico's second president, had African ancestry, and in 1829, from that position of power, he issued the decree that abolished slavery in Mexico altogether, less than a decade after breaking from Spain, and more than 3 decades before the U.S. would do the same. For years, Mexico resisted the United States' demand to return the people who had escaped across the border, and to no avail. This country stood on business. In fact, it can be argued that Mexico's refusal is one of the reasons slavery didn't expand further west to what is now known as California. And when I hold that history in mind, something else becomes clear. Why the Mexico I read in American history books and the Mexico I saw in U.S. mainstream media always looked a certain way: poor, corrupt, dangerous, and backwards. Living here forced me to question all of that and to interrogate how much of what I've been taught was propaganda designed to keep me looking down on this place. As an immigrant, I've had to rely less on the stories I inherited and more on the reality I live, because as it turns out, the girls up north are still big mad that Mexico stood its ground when it came to slavery, and they've never let it go. That's another reason why I'm so intent on writing this book. People need to know these things, especially Black people, so they can stop asking me if I'm safe here, so they can stop clutching their pearls when I tell them I live in Mexico, so they can stop making the cartel their first question as if violence is Mexico's only story. Because anybody looking at the United States right now has every right to ask, "Ho, is you cool?" For me, those distortions about Mexico often bring what Malcolm X once said to mind. If you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. Unfortunately, the mainstream story of this country has been flattened into caricature, and I refuse to let that stand uncontested. But let's be clear, I'm not here to romanticize Mexico either. It has its many challenges, like any place in the world does, and unlike other places in ways that are uniquely its own. But what I can say without hesitation is that in the 4 years I've lived here, it has been a better place for me, a better place than the one I left.